Good morning. We are here with our MC4326 Advanced Social Media and Analytics class. Big round of applause to our next agency who's here with us today. We are very excited to be here. We're going to be talking about influencer cultures, parasociality, and commodifiable authenticity. I'm really excited to hear from this team today. Matilda, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited. It's yet another great topic. I know I say it every week. We have such a great topic this week, but we really do, and such a great team. So I'm really excited. It's going to be a great show.
At this point, the topics are all curated that we know they're all going to be amazing. And this team is also fabulous. I know sometimes when we think about influencer cultures, we sometimes just go to the more frivolous topics, but I think also today we're going to talk about some of the problematic aspects of influencer culture and some of the considerations right now. Hello to everyone in the audience. I see a lot of people are saying hello to us. If you are joining us, we are streaming live to Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. If you're having problems on one platform, just swap on over to another. I am going to pass it over to this team. Take it away.
Hello guys, we are Agency 2 and today we are going to be discussing the age of influencers, which includes parasociality, authenticity, and more.
All right, my name is Tariana.
Hi, you guys. I'm Aviana.
I'm Imani.
And I'm Valerie, and today I'm going to be discussing the hot topic. So I don't know if any of you guys saw this trend going around with this creator called Lero and his kid, baby Zaza. Has anyone seen their content on TikTok?
I haven't. You're going to have to give us a bit of a rundown.
Okay.
Got it, girl. Tell us all about it.
Okay, so in the relationship, it's mostly just him being a father and him having this playful relationship with his kid of being like, oh, he favors his mom. And it's kind of like this cute dynamic. And they often do trends together, which includes dancing and trading audios. Well, recently, there has been some pushback because there was an account made posting baby Zaza doing like as AI, like him dancing, which just crossed some boundaries to the points where the father had to come out and be like, hey guys, this is not okay. And has even pushed back upon even like the fan accounts interacting with them. And it's like, hey guys, you're kind of pushing a boundary over here. And that leads me to my question is, do you think parents should regulate these fan accounts, or do you think it's up to the platform when it comes to these fan accounts for these kids to regulate them?
While we're waiting for you to post that, and I'll pin it, I'm with Reagan. Oh my goodness. So if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is this parent was posting videos of their child and then their audience has now started recreating the child with AI?
Yeah, and there's like a whole dedicated page, and the videos have over hundreds of thousands of likes and reposts.
What do people think? Imani, what do you think?
So I think that the bigger issue is around putting your kid on the internet, right? I don't think the issue is regulation because we're past that. They've already put their kids' image out there. So you can't regulate it once it's out. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, essentially. I think what it really comes down to is we need to have those parents taking accountability for how much of their child they're showing on the internet. That's creepy. Blur your kid's face or something, but don't do that. I don't know. I just think that we're showing too much of ourselves, especially our children. They're not getting to grow up and be kids. They're just always going to be seen as something else because they're being shoved into the limelight from this young age.
I'm with you that the parent put the kid out there, so that's hard to regulate. But don't you think there's a responsibility by some of these AI platforms to also not let users just do whatever they want with real people? And I ask this because in light of, and I'm going to change the topic a little bit, but we know on X's Grok has been turning, children and women into hypersexualized objects and so forth. So I'm like, if you're taking an underage human and doing something with them in AI, shouldn't they have to regulate? Like maybe it's not YouTube, but maybe like it's ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever it is. I'm going to throw that back to you, Amani.
I do think that like there definitely needs to be some sort of like regulation, like something that's like, hey, that's a child, don't do XYZ thing with that image, but I think Grok is a really good example that like it's kind of hard to regulate, mostly because like it's just doing whatever. Like I think AI is in a weird spot where it's so new, but it's developing so quickly that it's hard to deal with these issues as they're coming up because there's like 1,000 other issues that are coming up as well. But I do agree that there should be some regulation on the AI because like that's creepy,
Yeah, but I actually just heard that Sora didn't a ban just pass about them making videos, or am I just going crazy about that? Did you guys hear about that too, or am I going
What was
crazy?
that? Like a band?
Like Sora, like the AI, like they're now having like more heavy regulations towards making videos.
I think I did hear something about that because that's actually Sora, if y'all don't know, is especially if you're in our Monday class, that's what we saw at the end of one of the videos where it was Logan Paul basically doing that AI video. I forgot what it was, but it was at the end of a video that we watched in class, and it was a Sora AI video. And I remember people posting about it on TikTok. That was really viral when Sora went viral, is on TikTok with all these like random people that are on AI faces doing dances and doing like random things. But yes, I did hear about that.
So that was one of our fabulous afternoon students that they only had 2 people there that day. So they wanted to add another voice. And so they used this. So Sora was originally part of OpenAI, who also runs ChatGPT. They had folded it in, but they have shut it down, I think, because of some of these issues, but who knows why. I'm curious what you think about some of the comments, or if anyone wants to jump in on this question.
I liked or I appreciated Javier's comment where he said even though he has 0 kids, he does speak up to parents about it, because I think it's important, like even though you don't have kids yourself, to advocate for the children in the community, and just basically say, hey, like it's dangerous out here, you need to do something about this.
Yeah, I think Marina also brings up a good point. She kind of was touching on what I said with how it's an invasion of that child's privacy. And like it can lead to resentment. Like you see all these kids who are like not going non-contact with their parents now. Like I can only imagine how like worse it's gonna get as these like YouTube babies grow up and are like realizing the detriment that their parents have caused them.
And then about like that last comment, that it's really hard to control people posting their children. We will talk about this in a couple minutes, but most of the time, from a research standpoint, it was found that parents mostly post their children just in like a sharenting type of aspect. They're not trying to like breach on the privacy of their children. They're just simply trying to share a cute memory, or like, share something with their friends, and they're not expecting the video or picture to go viral. They're not doing it in like a way that like most of the time gets done, if that makes sense.
I think Tiriana's point is spot on, that like most of us are not using the internet to become famous. Most of us are not trying to gain millions of followers or present ourselves in a particular way. So we're posting ourselves, we're posting our kids. But if this can happen in sort of like these public environments, can it not also be happening in these private environments? And do we all need to be concerned potentially about our social media feeds just being fed back into AI? And like, what are the potential repercussions of something like that happening?
I think it's just danger for kids, and like they're growing up in front of the world, and that's something that's different than has ever happened before. So it adds like an extra layer of danger and challenge for kids growing up and changing and adapting and trying to learn who they are as a person, and that's all.
I think it kind of feeds into like the authenticity of it. Like if AI is going to be taking these things that are put out authentically, essentially for the most part, but like they're just gonna start doing things that seem authentic, but despite not being so. Yeah, Ruby Frankie is an extreme example because like you can see how like she started out being like, I'm a cute mom and these are my cute kids and like we're a happy family, and then it just like slowly swan dived into like the most depressing, sad things. And you can see it's like the influence of like getting that attention and that clout. And she stops caring about her kids because they don't matter. They're just like a product essentially at the end of the day to her.
Yes, I definitely agree with the whole eight passenger situation. We will definitely go more deep into that. But Imani, if you want to go ahead and jump into your article, this would be a great time to do so.
Yeah. Okay. So I covered this article. It's called Special Issue. It's about child influencers in the Asia Pacific. So it really goes into the way that these child influencers are being treated and the way that their like influencer culture is. So like in the first group of articles, you see that there's like a lot of like dominant culture values are like shaping the way that these kids are being seen as like normal and accepted. A lot of the examples that they provide kind of follow the same pattern. It's about like reinforcing dominant culture values and especially around like family and behavior and like what a good child should look like. But it also kind of ties into like the commercialization. And then we can like see that also playing out with Western influencers in a similar way. We see like family vlogging, lifestyle content, and like the LeBrant family having like these highly curated videos. And these like forced happiness, like these children are being like shown to be happy and all these things, but it's really just so we can feel like they're like it's just interesting to see that it's so similar in both cultures, like we're doing similar things but for different reasons. Like we're doing yeah, can we see the rise in AI influencers? Honestly, I think that's a really interesting point because there's all of these conversations around uh like pedos, and like having AI children be like the better option. So like I think that's already happening in a weird way, and it's a weird conversation. But anyway, back to the article I read. Then there's like the second group of articles, and it's talking about it was like the social movements and how these kids in Asia are creating these like cultural talking points, and which is something that we don't really have here. We don't have a lot of influencers who are kids who are like talking about like social problems or cultural problems or like trying to solve issues. Like we do have a little bit of that, but it's definitely not to the extent that it seems to be in these like Asian Pacific countries. And then the last group of articles was talking about regulation, and again very similar in both Western and Eastern countries, is that like there is such a lack of regulation. We're slowly realizing that we need it and that there is none. So like they're talking in the articles, they're talking about how they're trying to get more regulations to happen, but they're still like they're still behind. They're still not anywhere near where it should be, but at least it's like there's something that's happening. And I feel it's very similar here, where it's like we recognize that we need some sort of regulation, but it's still kind of a slow process to get that regulation to happen. I think that like there was this Netflix documentary about Piper Raquel, and it goes into talking about how like the Hollywood entertainment industry Because like it's like OSHA, like everything is created off of the blood of somebody else. Like something bad had to happen for us to realize that we needed to do something about it. And I think that happened with kids. Like we see Shirley Temple being exploited and all those like little rugrats, or not rugrats, rascals, little rascals, like the little baby ones. Like there's one dude had no money by the time he was like an adult because his parents took it and squandered it all. And like there was no protection for him. So we've seen that happen in Hollywood, how over time they're slowly getting more and more protections, and it's gotten so much better. Like you have to have school, you have to have like someone on set to like advocate for you. There's so many things that have been put in place, but we are severely lacking when it comes to that with like social influencers and the way that we're treating these kids, especially because it's such a private thing. Like they're doing it from home. Like we were talking about, I think in the last social media show, how these parents were like moving to Tennessee because they didn't like these regulations anymore. And like, what, you can't do anything about that, you know? Yeah, Val.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard about it, but actually recently, Tennessee has actually passed a law to protect these kids. States like Tennessee, California, Utah. I think I'm missing one, but there's actually a law that has been passed to where now these kids, the money that's being made from these channels, the parents actually have to set aside a certain amount. So when they turn 18, they would have access to the money that's being made on these channels. And also, when they come of age, they can legally ask for the content to be taken down once they're an adult. And I've been reading the comments, and it's like there should be no kids on the internet, or no kids should be posting themselves. But honestly, I think that's a little bit more of an extreme. Don't hate. I think that's a little bit too extreme. Just because I think we've definitely seen maybe some benefits of kids being on the internet and how their career have grown. I can give you an example of the dance moms and their kids. Now you look at them, they're actresses. So, like I'm going to say, do you think there's a way that we can have a good middle ground? Or do you think we just have to go to that extreme?
Yes, I definitely agree. I just saw this video the other day. I sent it to everybody, but it was this little boy, and he said, "Guess what? A chicken butt." And he had a chicken butt on his shoulder, and it was so cute. And I just love that video. So I definitely think that kids have a place on social media, but there definitely needs to be a boundary, like between what is like for the kids and what's not for the kids. Like as Professor Nicole just put in the chat, we have Sephora Kids as a trend now. And why are we putting kids on a platform to promote adult products? That makes no sense. You know, I think that there should definitely be a line crossed, not a line crossed, but a line drawn where we say, okay, this is the content that is for kids and kids should be posting, and this is the line, you know?
Right. So in that vein, sorry, go ahead, Avi.
Okay, I feel like I agree, especially when it comes to kids at such a young age. Their mental health and identity is at such a high risk, especially if they're still going to a public school, if they're still, they still have all of their kid years to live. And then at some point, if they do end up continuing on into their fame, into their influencer and wanting to be an influencer, because I really feel like it starts with the kid. It depends on what they're watching at home, who they're watching. And so it's like, if they get to that point where they are consistently online and they do have that type of following, do you guys think they are able to separate their real life from their online persona?
No, and that was, I think, something that I was going to bring up. I think that like Emily brings up a good point that like we should allow these kids to be put on camera, but they should have like some sort of knowledge of, like, they need to be able to like articulate that they want to do it, and they need to be able to understand the repercussions of it, which like you're not going to do when you're like 6 or 7. But like, I do think that like Val is correct. We can't just stop kids from having the internet or being on the internet. That's not really feasible. I do think that we can like regulate it better. And like to Austin's point, like I think that the line needs to be drawn with like, you know, like we have alcohol, we have like all of these things where it's like you can't do XYZ because until you're XYZ age. And like obviously there are people who can get around that rule, but I think that having some sort of like, you can't do this unless you're 13, or like you need to have like a parent with you or something. There needs to be like some way to kind of like regulate it, but I don't know what that is yet. So
Yeah.
I think it's challenging. Like it's like the chicken and the egg kind of situation where it's like, what do you do first, and how do you fix this problem? I mean, Australia obviously has put this social media ban on children under the age of 16, but everything I'm reading suggests that the children are still on there. They're getting around the age verification, and the age verification software is misaging them and so forth. And so Abby was talking about these sort of like regulations that they put into place to kind of like protect child influencers. But then we hear stories of parents literally moving to other states to evade having to follow these policies. And so like, it's just like, at what level do we need to have this? And I think someone asked you a question. There we go. Can a kid really truly consent to being posted online? Like, I guess this is where I want you to kind of have a bit of a conversation. Like, we have these child influencers, and sure, they shouldn't be posted if they're not willing and able participants, but can they truly consent?
I think, honestly, I don't know, because in reality, what's the difference between a kid influencer and then a kid superstar? Because they're both being put online, obviously to different degrees. But I don't really think it's really hard to, I guess, have their consent without knowing what's happening, I guess, on the inside, what's happening inside the home. Now, do we think, I think I know with like superstars, when it comes to that, they have like lawyers and like contracts. Do you think we should bring in contracts inside these kid influencers and these kid YouTube channels?
Hard, yes, especially if they're making a certain amount of money. Yes, because the difference between sort of like the Mickey Mouse Club and like we've seen problems with all of these celebrities coming up and sort of like the mental health effects of their child stardom. But inside the home, we have no idea what's happening, and there's no protections for these kids, I think. Imani, do you want to jump back in?
Yeah, I think that I don't know, I feel like it's just, it's kind of a weird slippery slope of like losing protections for ourselves if we try to overprotect the kids. So it's like, you can see like with the age verification stuff, like kids aren't being affected by that. That's adults being affected. Like, I don't want to put in my ID and it's already been stolen. Like, not mine.
Where's our faces? Like, they don't need our faces and biometrics. Like, get out.
Yeah. But I do think that like, it's hard to talk about consent because like we see kids who do like acting and like dancing, and that's a very similar but kind of different vein. And that like Valerie was talking about, like they have contracts. They have people who tend to advocate for them. There's been a lot of work put into trying to regulate that industry. So like, yeah, they can consent because there's stuff in like, there are things in place to protect them, kind of, sometimes, mostly. But like, I don't think it's the same, but also I feel like consent is such a difficult beast to kind of navigate when it comes to kids, because like they don't know better. They just see their friends doing stuff online. They think that's fun. They want to join them, or they see like Mr. Beast or something and they want to emulate him. You know, I don't think it's so nefarious as that they want to be like crazy big content creators. I just think that like it's so easy for them to be exploited, and that's the bigger issue, is the exploitation less than consent.
Yeah, every time we talk about any sort of kid influencer, the one kid that pops up into my head is Ryan's Tour Review. And I feel like he is a big part of kid influencers to this day. And this kind of goes back to my question of, can they separate their online persona versus like their, what's it called? like their real self. Because like especially now, Ryan, he is getting bullied online for him not growing up. And I'm pretty sure to this day he's still doing like tour reviews, if I'm not wrong, possibly gaming videos as well. But it's like he grew up at such a fast pace. He has kid toys in Walmart, and it's like, how do you grow up with all of that? And it's like, do you still have to be the little kid Ryan, or like, can you grow up and still have that audience that you had? Like, is your audience growing up with you, or like, is there a new generation coming in and you still have to play this part? And it's like, anytime I think about regulations or anything like that, I always think of Ryan. I'm like, how is he doing it? Like, what is going on with him?
And his net worth is $35 million as of last year, just to be clear. Like, he has made so much money from the very beginnings of like toy and little trinket and candy unboxings and unwrappings to like a mega industry. Him and Mr. Beast have kind of done the same thing, right? Like, they've turned their content into something personalized, authentic, something that people want to follow. They've definitely developed those parasocial relationships with their audiences, and then they launch out to other products that they then sell and turn into a real business.
Yeah, I really like what Faith had to say about how you can't really separate your persona because your sense of identity is still developing. And I think like Lila also touches on that, where it's just, if these kids are growing up online, do they even really have the opportunity to like develop a personality on camera? Because like, no, or they do, but like, is that personality what they would have had if they didn't, you know? Because like, it really comes back to like being authentic and the authenticity of us being online. It's like, at a certain point when you're being monetized, are you doing it because you're being monetized? Or are you trying to actually be authentic? And like, where does that kind of blur, you know? Like, does it become you're doing it for monetary reasons? Or are you doing it for authenticity reasons? Or are you doing it because you're being monetized because you're being authentic? You know, so it's like a double edged, sorry.
No, continue.
That was it.
Oh, I was just going to say, I do want to remind people that when you go work in Hollywood or you're making a Netflix series, for example, there's a certain amount of time that you're allowed to be on camera before you need to have a break. Like, it's a mandated break. And as we saw with the Raquel documentary, like, some days she filmed from beginning of the day to well past a time that any child should be awake. And so I think this, like, the level of exploitation, just to go back to your original point, Imani, is a key and important factor to like, how do you regulate the home? How do you regulate that? But there are regulations in place to say you can only film this much time and you have to give them breaks.
Well, yeah, it's like they need to have like school tech, like, you know, like there are all these things that you can see these like Hollywood kids are supposed to have, but like we can't enforce that. Like that Piper Raquel documentary was talking like they would be done at like 2 a.m. and then have to get up at like 7 a.m. to like continue to shoot. And like Piper Raquel didn't do school at all. It's like you have these kids who are like doing like social media, but then they're not actually learning how to be kids or like productive people in the like long run, you know.
Sorry, I would like to jump in and say that this question does, I think, transition perfectly into the Abil article.
Before we go there, I'm not done yet. I want to ask a question. I want to know what your team's thoughts are on sort of like the parental paradox that emerges in this article, and like, how does authenticity kind of like, how does that play into this sort of like the paradox that emerges with of like, you know, they have their private accounts and their public accounts, and what's the parental labor? Like, I want you to kind of walk us through like what that paradox looks like.
Yeah, so honestly, how Imani was talking about the different content being made compared to content in Asia than content over here, I wanted to bring up a fact that honestly, maybe that's a good thing to have regulated content. I think it's best to have, I don't know how I'm saying this right, but I say because of like parasocial fans, I think maybe you think it's best to have an online persona so they can protect themselves. You know, like I have like celebrities, like say like Beyonce, she has her persona that she has. Do you think like kids should have their online persona like this is myself to protect themselves from the like real life? Like I don't need to know like what school you go to, or I don't need to know your friends and stuff. You can have your content that you make online and then be separated and then have your own life off camera.
I feel like with like nowadays, a lot of people want to know that information. They're gonna push for it. They're gonna search online. They're gonna bug the influencer or the famous person that they're knowing that they want to know about. And it's like it really is hard to have that online persona versus being yourself, especially if it comes to these streamers, because these streamers stream 24/7. And it's like you know what their day-to-day looks like, and I feel like that's really where the parasocial relationship starts, is from just standing in front of a camera, because you could just stand in front of a camera and boom, somebody's obsessed with you. And honestly, I find that like honestly really weird, and I feel like a lot of the viewers ignore red flags because they feel like they are connected to the person that's in front of the camera.
I mean, you have like Hannah Montana, you know, so I think we kind of touch on that like in a very earlier time in like our social media history. It's like we clearly see the detriment, you know, like we could see that like, hey, maybe it's not great if you have to be constantly out in the world as a young teen, as a famous person. And I think that like having that like a separate avatar that you can like pretend is you is like such a good idea, actually, Valerie, because I think that like that can kind of, it's like the best of both, where you can have the notoriety and like the fame, but then you can have a chance. Like Dolly Parton doesn't look the same way when she's at home with her husband. You know, she like takes off her wig and she becomes like she doesn't become someone that she's known for. So she's able to like have some anonymity. And I think that like being able to do that for these kids would be so important, but also really difficult. I think someone had a really good question. Andrea, she said that, do you think that this will affect children in the long run with no education and could potentially affect them having trouble finding a job in the future or even financially? Because I think that like with Piper Raquel, she immediately turned 18 and started doing OnlyFans. So like what chance does she have of like, she didn't like, does she have a like high school degree, you know? Like, does she have a way to like step away from that life without having severe repercussions because she's losing her like her like only chance of the only source of income that she's ever known, you know? Like I definitely agree that makes it difficult for them in the long run.
We've talked a little bit about like the parental responsibility here, and we've talked a little bit about like potential governance through like government regulation. But I'm curious what you think the role is and or should be by social media platforms when they are clearly making and monetizing children's content. Like what? Because to me, it seems like there's more than one player here, and that means there's probably more than one person responsible. So, like, what is the responsibility of the social media platforms, whether they're doing it or not? What are they doing versus like what should that line be in your mind?
I would say that the platforms are definitely trying. With the age restrictions on most platforms, it's usually 13 and up. The problem is like bypassing the age restriction. Like there are so many kids on social media, and the age restriction is so easy to bypass. And also just like developing the algorithm in a way where we have certain content for kids and certain content that's like blocked for kids and younger audiences.
Social media platforms do not stop children from posting as long as it's the parent's account and the parents are posting the content. But there's nothing that says a parent can't manage a 5-year-old's page, a 3-year-old's page, a 7-year-old's page. Does that change anyone's thoughts?
I feel like this kind of ties into YouTube versus kids YouTube. Although there is like a kids YouTube, as someone who has a younger sister that is dead stuck to a screen, unfortunately. Seeing her scroll through the kids' YouTube, it isn't regulated at all. And yes, as much as we try to block those accounts or those people that she shouldn't be watching and that are somehow on kids' YouTube TV, it's so weird because it just keeps coming back, or they'll or YouTube with their algorithm, it'll bring other creators that create the same type of content. And it's like, how did this content get into kids YouTube TV? Like, is there anybody like actually going through like these videos, flagging them, reporting them, or doing anything? Because every time I block an account, it somehow, some way always comes back.
Matilda, I saw you like lean in, jump in.
No, I was just thinking about how like we talked about this before on like previous shows, like how at the end of the day, these platforms are just here to make money. That's all they care about. So sometimes like the content around kids is interesting to people and people want to see it. So then the algorithm is going to push it more too, because like these platforms know that they're going to get more views and more people to look at it. And so like, I'm not surprised at all that like, even if like this content, like if there's like content that people don't think should be online on of kids, like I'm not surprised at all that these platforms are not taking it down. Like they're rather like pushing it in the algorithm. Like I'm not surprised at all, because that's what makes these platform money.
So then really it's like an issue with the platforms and money. So like, do you think that there is a way to make it financially beneficial for them to like regulate this more? Or is it always going to be something?
Create a safer internet. Like, I don't know why this isn't the baseline starting point, right? Like, it's like, go regulate with the government, tell the parents to do this. Sure, all of those things can happen. But like, why are the platforms not responsible for creating a safe internet for the children to begin with? Yeah, jump in.
Okay.
You can disagree with me.
I feel like the main reason again is because of the money and because of the following, the audience, like especially with TikTok, like with how many downloads they have, like it's just so popular. And I feel like once those regulations, those rules or whatever, once it comes in place, making it safer, then there goes the platform itself. They're going to move all of that to like Reels or the YouTube Shorts, or they're just going to make another platform similar to TikTok, and then all TikTok's audience is just going to go to the other platform.
So Instagram created a teen account, right? They created a teen account, and parents were like, "Oh, good." And then these journalists at The Guardian set up 2 teen accounts, and they found that they were receiving content about harm, drug use, promiscuity. Like they were actually experiencing this kind of content at a higher rate than the non-regulated teen accounts. And so it's like, again, why can't we put these platforms accountable for creating a safe internet? Because you should be able to. Like they have all the buttons in the background, right? We've talked about their algorithmic control and how we can change the track of the algorithm. So why can't they promote a safer, more positive internet for children? I think someone else was going to jump in. Matilda, you can go.
I was just going to say real quick, if you think about like, I know there's been a lot of talks about how there's like these TikTok accounts for little kids, especially little girls, and like the amounts of saves on these videos is like disgusting. Like there's like more saves than like likes on these videos, basically. Like I know there was, I can't remember what the account was called, but there's one account specifically that was like a couple years ago going through this, and the mom didn't stop making the videos. Like the more saves she got, the more people were watching her videos, the more money she was making. So like she was making money on the expense of her like 4-year-old kid being watched by a bunch of nasty men.
I think there was, I believe it was the New York Times put out a really disturbing editorial piece maybe about a year ago, where they showed that like little girls who were like dancers and gymnasts, the bulk of their followers were actually like old men. And so you put 2 and 2 together there, and it's like a pretty disturbing picture.
Yeah, I feel really conspiracy theory with like my my tinfoil hat. Like I think I know. Like I mean, I don't think I know, but like I have thoughts about it. You know, like there's like it's clearly happening, but like also, why can you save these videos? Why can you save them? Like you shouldn't be able to do that on like especially the kids' videos. That seems like such an oversight that could easily be remedied, but they're not doing it because it makes them too much money. And that's really what it comes down to. It's like it's all the money of it. But I think this might be a good time to pivot and listen to Tiriana, because she has a really interesting article to talk about.
Yes, and even to piggyback off what you're just saying, a lot of times, in these platforms and these accounts, the parents are the ones who are curating the authenticity of their child's account. And speaking of, it was stated as the child's authenticity versus what the parent wanted to represent online as their child, or like them as a parent. Like my mom will always tell me, when you go out, you represent me. And I think that that's very prevalent when it comes to these children's accounts, because the parents are the ones who are creating the accounts and managing them, editing the videos, and basically choosing which content to post online. Um, the article that I read was managing kid authenticity in the Kidfluencer's world, and it basically goes through the process of um, recording and posting content for these children, and it begs the question of like, is your professional separate from your authenticity? And for a lot of these kids, their parents were the ones who chose who this child is online, and for most parents, when they first decided to post a video online, it was just them sharing something about their family, sharing like, hey, this is what my child is doing. This is how my child acts, like in a cute and like authentic way. But then most of the parents admitted that once they realized that they could profit off of off of this content, they pivoted to a factor of like, okay, what does the audience like to see? Oh, so they like this type of video. I'm gonna keep recording this and posting this. Um, and also for an influencer in general, the things that they must do is self-brand. So you must be this image or this certain character online in order for you to gain a following. And once you gain that following, you're expected to maintain that character, because if you change or you adjust in any way, most of the time your audience, it feels like uneasy, and they can just drop off quickly. And for a lot of kids, this adds an extra pressure onto their shoulders, like being the breadwinners for their families, and just trying to like follow the rules of their parents and like what their parents want. They'll adjust, and just like, even though they don't want to record a video today, they will record a video because it's what mom says, or it's what dad says needs to be done. And yeah, this kind of begs my question: how can you grow and adapt as a child with the kidfluencer expectation to stay the same?
I thought this question while you're posting that one kind of like was focused exactly on what you were saying, which is, interesting. But as soon as you post yours, I'll replace it. Does anyone want to jump in on answering that question?
That goes through definitely a tricky subject on whether uh, now that they've grown to this image, how can they really grow up? I think maybe what needs to happen is definitely with these influencers and also maybe kid celebrities, definitely making sure that their mental health is well. I think definitely making sure once they're definitely getting profit, like I said, we should have regulations like contracts, and also maybe even regulated therapy to go into play as well, to make sure that they're growing up in a safe environment as well.
Yeah, I think that it really takes away from their childhood, like they're constantly being forced into a box, and like it might have started out as something that they wanted to do initially, but like as you grow and like become a different person, you're still being forced like back into that box. And I think that it can lead to like aggression almost, like these kids are gonna like constantly want to be their young that version of themselves, because like that's what made them money and got them popular. So like I think it'll kind of like stunt their growth in some way. Like I don't imagine that it's easy to like want to grow up when the version of you that was successful was like a younger version of you that's not as developed. like you're gonna want to continue to like hold on to that version. And I think that you can kind of see that with like these kid influencers. Are like they're not really growing up. They're like getting older, but they're not like maturing.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I think that's like there's like a whole thing for like the Peter Pan syndrome of having a fear of growing up. But that means the money that they've made while they were kids will go away.
But it's also something that's going to follow them for the rest of their lives. Like kind of what we talked about last week in the social media show, like someone mentioned, like it's kind of like a digital tattoo. Like these kids are essentially getting these like digital tattoos when they're like super young, and it's like it's going to stay online forever. Even though we talked about the regulations and like rules that like these videos could be taken down when they turn 18 or whatever, but I know someone in the comments a long time ago said that they're going to stay online forever even if they're taken down. Like this is going to follow these kid influencers for the rest of their lives. And like I can imagine a lot of them getting bullied when they're older for these like videos that were put online when they were little, right?
Yeah, Morgan just
Jojo Siwa. Jojo Siwa. And I was also thinking, didn't Miley Cyrus just do this like special anniversary of Hannah Montana with a song or something? It popped up in my feed.
Yeah,
so.
does she have a song like for my younger self or something like that?
Yes, yeah.
I think that like you see these kids who either like don't know what to do, or like Miley Cyrus just like went completely the opposite way. She was like, nah, I'm not doing Disney anymore. I'm gonna like do this weird hip hop tongue
with
thing.
a Vanity Fair cover, if I remember, that was rather risque, right?
Yeah,
like
and Drew Barrymore is the same. Like all these kids who are like pigeonholed, you see them either like continuing that train of like the direction that they're going in, or you see them that like completely just do like a 180. Sorry, the hashtag save Drake Bell got me. Because like, yeah, dude, like you can't be a decent person when you're just always being told who to be.
Yes, I definitely agree. One of those points that I brought up earlier, influencers must self-brand. They must become a character online, and their followers and their audience expects them to stay the same. So as they grow and become older, if you're a kid influencer, when you're an adult now and your audience is expecting you to continue to make content for children or content geared around children, a lot of times kid influencers or kid stars, as Valerie brought up, they will take a pivot and like a huge turn and self-brand and become like a new persona online. So that's a lot of times the reason why kid influencers or kid stars will do something so dramatic and big.
Yes, yes, I do agree that that is mostly the case. Whether, but also even besides kid influencers, you do also see that with adults in the industry. And I did see a comment. I can't find it. I'm sorry, but
it gets so hard. There gets to be
it gets so hard to find these comments.
you can just summarize. What did they roughly
Wonderful
say?
comments, but it was basically saying that whether it's the parents or like the kids itself, I think is it really them, or is it really the social media platforms or the internet, or like maybe it goes to Hollywood itself, or whether we need to, it should be up to them or should it be up to the industry to protect these kids?
I think it's everybody. Everybody plays a part in the protection of these children. Their parents first off as like that first layer of protection, and deciding what to post about their kids and how their kids are perceived online. And then even the audience can be included into this conversation. Like, how are you consuming this content? What is your mind frame when you're watching these children? And it's a conversation that needs to be had. There are some people out here who are not doing the right things and are not consuming children's content in the correct way. And we definitely need to do something about it. And these platforms need to do more to become stricter about fixing the algorithm to make sure that kids' content stays kids' content. As Avi was talking about earlier, there are people who are masking inappropriate content in a way that is that looks as though it is for kids, and it leaks onto you, even the app YouTube Kids, where like a kid will click on a video and watch it, but if you actually listen to what they're saying in the videos, it's inappropriate content. And then there needs to be regulation passed for harsher regulation passed, not focused on the financial benefit of kids content, but focused on their protection. And
Definitely. Like I've seen most issues where definitely with like YouTube itself, all like the ads are being placed in these kids' YouTube channel. Like you're watching like kid video, and why am I seeing like a rated R movie or like something like that should not be seen by kids? I think when it comes to that, like the commercial value of the kids channels and even YouTube in general, like we should be able to knowing like I'm gonna watch a Coco Melon video and I have to worry about these weird ads popping up while I'm watching.
I think ads are such a problem, like an underrated problem that we don't talk enough about. And this is a little bit off social media, but I think it's like the same idea, is that my kids' school was using this typing program, the same one where you learn to type, and it's like super innocent. But the ads that were popping up were insane, and they kept telling the teacher, and they had to block the application. And I think the same thing kind of happens often on social media, where it's like you might be in a kid's account or you might be on a teen account, but what you're seeing is the advertisements are much more adult content. I don't know if anyone wants to elaborate on their thoughts on this.
I just think it gets, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's hard too, because like obviously these ads are made to like per se, like convince you to buy something, or like, and kids might be like so easily influenced to buy these things. Like we talked about the Sephora kids earlier, and like now like all these kids, all they want is like this like adult skincare, and like that is so like in the end dangerous. Like the kids are so easy to convince, so I can see how these ads can be like super dangerous.
There was a report that came out that like 20% of Sephora's customer base now is like in that 8 to 13-year-old range, which is just mind-boggling to me.
And I just like thought of this, like how many like ads right now on TV are like for GLP-1s and stuff. Like little kids are seeing these ads. Like that is getting like super dangerous.
Well, like, and do you think it's because YouTube wants you to buy their like ad-free version so that you're not seeing these ads anymore? Or like, because I think that like ultimately like they're trying to get it so you either interact or you spend more money or both. And I just think that like ultimately it's like it's not necessarily just a regulation issue, it's like a greed issue, because like we can't regulate anything if these companies are like just constantly looking for other ways to monetize on the backs of these children and these kid influencers and their families. Because like, yeah, I'm on Reddit mostly, so like I'll see these ads about parents who are like upset about the ads that are being shown to their kids on like YouTube, and they're like watching Coco Melon or something like Miss Rachel. It's like, how do you even start to regulate something that's so unattached technically? Because like what do you even do when you're seeing these inappropriate ads in a kid space where they shouldn't be? But like I don't get those ads as an adult like at all. So like it's clearly targeted, which I think really just like we need to work at regulating like everything. Just everything needs to be regulated, but especially ads.
I feel like, so our main problem here is money. Like money is a drug to everybody, especially in this industry. And I know at my age, I had technology, but I was not in front of an iPad 24/7. I could easily sit down, turn on the TV and watch SpongeBob. But now it's like you have to buy all these different streaming services in order for you to even watch one TV show. And it's like a lot of parents these days, their parenting is putting an iPad in front of a kid kid and telling them to like calm down. And when it gets to that point, the kid is just going to go scroll on YouTube, which is the internet, which is worldwide, which brings in all of these problems. And it's like, why can't we just go back to cable, sit in front of the TV and just watch SpongeBob? Like I had no problems then. I had no problems then.
Yes, and I get what you're saying, and that also brings to a point where now there's no third space for the kids to grow, and it's like a specific age demographic. I think it's blending together. I know growing up, and like even my sister growing up, she said there was like specialty stores just for kids. Like we're taking away our justices, our Claire's, like those were spaces just for kids. Like, and there were definitely more kid friendly clothing and like where kids can hang out. I don't know this store. I don't know, maybe you guys who know this. My sister, she grew up in the 90s, but there was another store. There was like another store where like kids can go and get their makeup done and their hair done, and it was just a safe space for kids. And like you said, we grew up where we can have Blue's Clues on and we have no issue at all. I think was definitely an issue is having a third space. Now because of that, kids are like, I don't know where to go. Like I don't know where I can go, and that's pushing them towards the only place left, and that is the internet. And like I say, most of the times people blame the parents, like, oh, these parents, they should know better. But as an aunt of 3 kids, it is hard. It is so hard to like even go to like a Costco with them. I think there definitely needs to be a more like a third space for these kids.
I also want to throw in, this is kind of putting myself out there, but even though I was probably, I don't know, maybe in middle school, but if you guys have ever been on Kick or Omegle or Monkey, any of those types of unnecessary apps that were on the internet, I feel like that was another way for me to connect to other people, but it was also the most dangerous way that I could talk to people on the internet. And my parents weren't really regulating what I was doing, but at the same time, I was mature enough to know that I shouldn't be on those apps, but I still was. But I just like that thrive that I was just like, oh, I get to talk to new people. I get to do this. I get to do that. And then I see something I'm not supposed to see. And I'm like, okay, but I'm just going to go back because I want to talk to people. And it's like, well, I had to put that out there because I was like, oh my gosh, Kick, Omegle, like people have been on these services before.
Yes, and the thing is that these platforms know that it's a problem too. Because I even saw last time I was on Monkey, they had updated their like terms and conditions or something like that to help alleviate that problem because they knew that there were creeps on there looking for younger girls. And I do want to bring up the point, even with the ads, like in the article, it says that kids advertisements or advertisements geared towards children is a $2.9 billion industry, and it's expected to increase by 22% by 2031. That's only in a couple years, meaning that it is on a high trajectory. So these platforms do know that protection of children and, you know, the content that they see is a problem, but are we actually doing everything that we can to protect these children, or are we hanging on to the fact that this is a $1 billion industry and there's a lot of like money flowing in?
Well, and like I grew up with like Saturday morning cartoons, right? So like I remember having all of these like toys advertised to me, and like that seemed like I remember that being like such a big deal because parents were so upset because like we don't have any filter or regulation. We just see a thing we want and we're just like pester them until we get it. And I feel like these ads are very similar because like the kids don't know any better. They're just seeing something that seems like interesting. So like it's definitely it's always been a problem, you know. I think the issue is like how we've changed as society, because like before it was you were advertising like GI Joes and like Barbies and stuff, and now it's like Sephora and like skincare and like all of this stuff to like be more adult. And it's so creepy. Like, why are we forcing these kids to grow up so quickly? Or like, why do they want to? Or like, just what has caused these kids to feel like it's better to be an adult? Because like, is it? It's not. It's awful. Like,
Well, I feel like, because I know when I was a kid, I always used to tell myself like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till I'm like 20. I don't know why would I tell myself that, but I feel like it obviously starts at home and with the parents, because when I would see my mom do her makeup, I would want to do makeup. When I saw her put on perfume, I would want to put on perfume. But I feel like it comes to this point where it's like the mom is doing it in front of a camera for views, for money, and then the daughter or whoever sees it and they're like, oh my gosh, like I want to do that. Like it starts at home. It always starts at home.
Yeah,
that just comes back to
I was just gonna say, children are little imitators, so they are gonna do these things whether they see them online or not. Like my 10-year-old is not online, but I came home one day and she gets home like 10 minutes before me because I pick up her brother, and she had tried on all my makeup. And I was like, you little turkey, you can't use mom's makeup because that's just in a different price point than you're allowed to be using. But you know, they do want to imitate and they do want to act like grown-ups. And I think that becomes kind of challenging. But going to what Imani was talking about, like we had cartoons that then filtered with a bunch of, food and toy ads, right? But I remember like those were so common to me that I didn't think anything of them. But I don't know that children see that many ads anymore. So like when we go to a hotel and there's not Netflix or Disney Plus and there's cable, my kids ask for every single toy that comes on because they're no longer desensitized to the fact that these are like ads that are happening. They want every toy they see. And I'm like, no. Matilda, did you want to jump in? No. Okay. Was it Valerie?
Yes. Oh, what was I gonna say? Yes, I think that also goes to like parodying like other people. Like at least when I was growing up, I had this epiphany around Christmas time. But when I was growing up, the cool thing was, I'm sorry, I don't care if this is embarrassing, but when I was growing up, I like to watch My Little Pony. I don't care. And because of that, and like all my circle of people seeing that, no one really cared, or no one really judged to like care about that stuff. Now I went to go buy Christmas gifts for my niece, and she's like, I'm like, oh, what is she like? She's like 10 years old. So I'm like, does she like Hello Kitty and stuff like that? And then she's like, no. I want to go to Sephora, or like I want more adult stuff. And I think that also this goes to who you surround yourself with, and like these influencers showing you all of these stuff. Like, why does she have a better skincare routine than I do? Like, you're 10. Come on.
And
No,
it definitely,
exactly.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it definitely ties right back into the article. I'm loving this conversation. Because one of the parts that it talked about was the influence of commercial partnerships on these kidfluencers and the way that they're perceived on the internet. These commercial partnerships are a perfect example of the transition that we're in right now, where kids are going from seeing shows on TV and watching ads to now being present on social media. So these kidfluencers are kind of playing that role of being the advertisement for these kids, but also showing it in a commodifiable and authentic way, So yeah, that's all.
I think that's a great segue to move into Avi's section.
Yes. Okay. I'm so excited to talk about this. So it's been mentioned in the comments. We mentioned that we were going to talk about it. The whole 8 passengers situation. As someone who watched 8 passengers while I was little, the things that I was watching, I didn't realize were going on. So real quick, if you guys don't know who 8 passengers are, it's a mom and dad. They were raising, I believe it was 6 children. The main thing that happened recently was in 2023. The kids were going through severe child abuse. One of the kids ended up escaping, asked the neighbor for help, and then from there on out, the whole shebang went down. But the point that I want to make is, when it comes down to these family influencers being authentic, So when I was watching Eight Passengers at this time, this happened. What's his name? Chad. Chad had just gotten his door taken away. He got his whole room taken away. He was sleeping on a bean bag for months, and then he got sent to a camp. Basically, it's kind of like a military camp, but basically he was there for a couple months. He then got sent back home, and just me realizing that what I was watching at that time, I was like, there's no way this is real. Like, you're telling me at that young of an age, I was watching that go down, and I thought nothing of it. And it's because the whole time they were putting on an act, making everything seem like it was okay. And obviously it's never okay. And it's like, at one point, what is authentic on social media? Like, how do parents play a role in the child? I guess you could say they were kind of influencers in a way, but it's like, how does this happen?
I think that like it comes down to like those regulations too, because like it's so hard to know what's really happening behind the scenes of something when they're actively putting out a different face to the public. Like how like but also man, it's wild that she did all this stuff that was really messed up. Like she took away his room and his door, and like you can see the like deterioration of her the way she treats her kids over time. But I feel like maybe it's kind of like a crab in water situation. Like you don't feel how bad it is because you're like slowly getting introduced to it over time. Because like watching the documentary like about the 8 passengers, it's like how could you as someone watching that be okay with the fact that this like little boy got his room taken away and forced to go to like camp because he didn't want to do it anymore. Like homeboy just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. But like the way it was framed on their site makes it seem like he was in the wrong. And I just think it becomes really difficult to really know what's authentic when we're constantly when like influencer like commodifying that authenticity. Like you are trying to be authentic because you see that it gets views. So like they're doing this like trying to show their real life, but it's also like not a lot. It's not the whole thing. Like we're only seeing the portion that they want us to see. And it's wild that it was that portion because I'm like, how did you think that that was going to go over? But like clearly it went over fine because I don't think that was really a tipping point. I think that was maybe like people started paying more attention, but I don't think that was a big like motivator for other people to speak up against the 8 passengers. I think it was a little bit further down the line, right, Avi?
Right. Yeah. Especially because during that time, most of their audience was kids, obviously kids that were my age. So it's like we thought nothing of it. We were just like, okay, like, he just got in trouble. But obviously it was far more into that, and the way the kids disciplined them, the way the parents disciplined the kids. But it's like now after everything has gone through, Chad is, he's living his life, and in his comments, it's flooded with comments about his mom, about how he feels, what's going on with his dad, because the parents split. Obviously, she's in jail, and I believe he's married into another family now. And a lot of people were asking about the little brother that escaped and obviously got the call for help. And we haven't heard anything from the little brother, which is pretty smart for him because he isn't 18 yet, and legally I don't think he can talk about anything yet. So I think he does turn 18 this year, if I'm not mistaken. But I honestly can't wait until hopefully he does speak about it, because I feel like that would be a very hot topic to talk about. The older sister speaks up about their mom too. I believe so. I believe she also made a book as well. And it's like, it's crazy to see how they're moving on from this situation after they lived their whole lives in tragedy.
Yes.
Well, like the sister. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, the sister is actually speaking out. She was actually the one who was able to make the law pass in Utah about the regulations, about setting aside the money for the kids, and also being able to delete the content, even though we just discussed content is never fully removed from the internet. And honestly, I think right now she's actually an activist speaking for kids' rights. So yes, you are right, Lila.
Yeah, she like I feel like it's so sad because like she escaped essentially. Like she got out of this situation and instead of being able to live her life, she had to worry about her siblings that were still stuck behind. You know, like she like the documentary I watched was like she was talking about how she was like constantly trying to like get help for them and like figure out a way to get them help. And despite the fact that she's like somewhere else, I think she went to like school and she's like trying to do school and like trying to help her siblings, and it's just so heartbreaking to see like these kids who were abused having to like be the ones to help out their siblings, you know, like it definitely speaks to this like the like lack of regulation and like how important it is. And it's really heartening to see that she's becoming an advocate for something that's so important because like it's messed up. I think that Emily really brought up a good point about how like it never really crossed their mind that it was abuse until you get older. Because like as a kid, you see that the parent being strict, and you don't really think much about it. You're just like, oh no, those kids did something that like I guess was bad. But then like you get more context of it, and it's just like we don't really get to see like anyone being authentic. Like, do we even at a certain point, like, are we being authentic online anymore? Like, what has that line been blurred? You know, do we just constantly try to show a face, you know, or is it like, or like with 8 Passengers, they like start out being authentic, but then it quickly devolves, you know? It's like, is there any real authenticity, or is it all just kind of an act overall, you know?
I feel like it's really hard to tell what is authentic and, staged and whatnot because like the whole 8 passenger situation, like although I was at a young age realizing like, okay, like this is how they're living. No, like now that I've grown up, I'm like, oh my gosh, like they were living 2 lives right in front of my face. And I was like, it's insane.
I think some of these examples, this one certainly, but some of the others as well that you've come up with today are so interesting because they reveal sort of the performativity of authenticity rather than authenticity itself. And even when it looks kind of like amateurish, we kind of think, oh, that feels more authentic. But in many cases, even that amateurism is a professionalization, a presentation of amateurism that's actually quite professionalized. And to like some of these comments, I mean, obviously this is like a heartbreaking example. Heartbreaking. Abuse is going to happen everywhere. And to your point, Amani, like how do you regulate? Like we already regulate abuse, but like when people are presenting in a very particular kind of way in public, it isn't always easy to see where the abuse is, where the exploitation is. And I think that's really what a lot of your conversations today have revealed and enunciated is like these pockets of exploitation or pockets of abuse are not always visible when we're consuming the content. And so, yeah, it's just more of a statement. I don't have a question. It's just like a statement of like how tragic it is that we're in this like space where, I mean, I guess the question could be like looking back, should people who are watching it have done something? Like, could we learn from this example?
Oh, I honestly, just thinking about it, it honestly comes to the point on, do you think it's the program or like TV shows that honestly kind of regulate that behavior or kind of push that behavior? Because I don't know if you guys were watching cable growing up or this show, it's called like Straight Straight, or like these kids who would like act up or go crazy would go to these strict parents, and it's just like they would get not like abused, but it's like a whole 360. And I think because of the content that we were pushed over, I guess now seeing the Family 8 situation, and it's just like, oh, I didn't really bat an eye because I was kind of used to seeing those shows growing up. So my question is, do you think maybe you think we just got more like used to seeing that stuff, or I can't think of the word, but
like desensitized to it almost.
Desensitized to it all.
Yeah. So my immediate thought when you said that, Valerie, is like someone mentioned Dance Moms. Like my children love this show and I find it vile. Like it's just brutal. Like that dance teacher, she yells at everyone and everything, and no one is good. Like for me, I find that like very triggering. My children love this show. So I do think there's like a level of desensitization. And I wonder if it's the internet or like maybe it started with reality TV before the internet. Like I'm thinking back to some of these like early reality TV shows. I'm curious what you think.
I think that like, oh, Avi, you're muted.
My bad. I especially with Dance Moms, as someone who grew up in that industry for 10 plus years, when I watched Dance Moms, I was like, oh, I live this life. Like this is nothing new to me. Like I'm not, I guess you could say I'm used to it. So every point that she was making, I was like, oh yeah, like I can see why, like this totally makes sense. I'm like, she's not over exaggerating. Like if y'all were to hear my high school coach, y'all would think, oh my gosh, like she needs help. But it's like, it really does come to a point with how people grew up, what they grew up with, and just how they take things. Like, do they let it run off their shoulder? Do they sit with it? And it's really just a really broad, can't think of that word, but y'all get what I'm saying.
Avi, if a dance teacher talked to my daughter that, because my daughter's in dance, if they talked to her like that, I would pull her out.
I don't know. I agree with you though. 'cause, like,
I feel like, I mean, especially, I don't know, it's because I don't take things to heart. So it's like, you know, come at me all you want. It just builds my character. And I feel like that's important as well.
I will say, I think like art though is different because like I was in orchestra and played violin, and my teacher made me cry so much. Like they're so mean, but like it's definitely, I think it's across the board. And like you do, I think as we've gotten older, we have it's been lessened, but I think especially with dance because it's so body centric, like you need to be a certain look, but also like weight and stuff, like especially with like cheerleading too, like you need to be small to do things fast and quickly. So like I think it just lends itself to kind of already disordered thinking. But like I definitely think it's an art people thing, and maybe not like drawing, but like my music teacher was mean, man. Like
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we had this discussion today, you guys. This was a really good topic for us, and I hope our audience, I hope y'all enjoyed as well. Just to give a quick overview, Val, she talked about the disasters of AI and how it is today. Imani, she went into the regulations on kids and how it's affected. Tyriana, she went in on being a kid influencer at a young age and how it affects them. And I went into the whole 8-passenger situation and how being authentic on the media really impacts us all. And the last thing I want to say is the next time you scroll, ask yourself, why do I trust this person? Is it because they're truly authentic or because they learn how to appear in this way? You know, in the age of influencers, awareness might be the number one thing that we need to start looking out for.
Yay! Well done. I'm seeing applause in the chat, and I agree. You've done an amazing job, and we're so proud of you. A great call to action. I mean, every time I scroll, I'm going to really think, do I need to watch this mom talking to her infant? I just think those videos are so cute. But again, like I think we all have a role to play in what we consume and what we're scrolling past versus stopping on. So yes, wonderful job to Agency 2 here today. Got us off on such an outstanding start to our day. We have one more show starting at 12:30, but I mean, honestly, you kicked us off so nicely, and what great conversation, great topics, just so interesting. Matilda, what did you think?
Yes, great job. I know they're loving you in the comments too. So that's really fun to see. Great coverage of the topic. It was really interesting to hear your thoughts on the articles, and you brought in great examples. Yeah, really, really good job. And good job to the audience. Again, like such a great audience.
You're such a good audience that we can't find your content when we read it. But that's a good problem for us to have. Just a wonderful show. Congratulations again to Agency 2. Well done to our audience for just being such an amazing audience. We're just getting so lucky this semester with such amazing audiences. I want to let you know you have your social media labs that are due on Sunday. You are now hopefully moving into those individual portfolios. You did have a lab kind of geared around those, so keep moving in that direction so you can pass that in soon. On Monday, we have a special treat. Matilda's going to be doing her very first lecture on artificial sociality, which builds off of some of the research work that she's also doing with me. And I'm super excited. So I know you're going to love that. And then we have our social media shows next Wednesday as well. Have a great weekend, everyone. And we will see you